let's break down the game here. We got the New Orleans Saints versus the LA Rams. Looks like the Rams are laying -2.5 pretty much across the board on SBR odds. Over under of 53. Donnie, you want to start us off on this game?
It's a great football game. I know last week we talked a lot about the game that was the Rams and also with the Minnesota Vikings, two really good, evenly matched teams, same in this situation. Sometimes in the NFL, one team really needs it more than the other one. Disappointing effort last week for the Rams as they went and played Minnesota. No shame in that, though. I mean, everybody goes into Minnesota's going to have a tough time. You also saw early in the season who else went in there. The same team they're playing. New Orleans Saints got beat around playing the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to happen. Very good football team. Tough environment to play in that dome. Now they're going to go back out to LA. The one thing that we always like to look at when we bet against or bet for Drew Brees, guys, is when he goes on the road. You want him to go on the road in the Northeast in a wind-swirling tunnel. You want him playing like that Giants game atmosphere last week versus the Kansas City Chiefs with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds and force him to throw the football. Not the strongest arm and always loves to be accurate. The wind can push it around. It's not going to be any of that here in Los Angeles this weekend. The one thing I do look at is when the New Orleans Saints go up against football teams that can really hum on offense and play well. Now, the Rams didn't play well last week, but that's more of an aberration there. Played a really good defensive football team on the road in a dome, tough environment, and Jared Goff pretty much got his comeuppance there. But coming back home here, the one thing I am interested to see is how well the Rams are going to be without Robert Woods, who's played really well at wide receiver. I think McVay is going to be able to scheme and play a really good football game and, get that team ready to play, being a home game for the Rams. But if you look at New Orleans coming in, they're a good football team. They should have lost last week. They should have got pounded. Their MO during the season, if they're playing a team that's not really, offensively ready to go, the a la the Chicago Bears of the world, and I don't have the actual schedule up in front of me, but the last 4 to 5 weeks until they played Kirk Cousins, who can throw the football a little bit, they have really rolled and then struggled against that team. I think Jared Goff's going to put up some points in this football game. If I'm looking from an overall, side perspective, don't really like it too much. I would lean towards the home team Rams. But that over-under sitting at 53, 52.5. I think there's going to be some points in this game. Alex Okafor getting injured last week for the New Orleans Saints. That's another pass rusher down, a little bit banged up in their secondary. I see some points in this football game.
Donnie's NFL analysis. It's a tough follow, but Ian Cameron, what do you got to say about it?
No, it is, and he's right about the secondary. It's been banged up. They haven't had Bro all season, and I've talked about many times how they've missed him. Lattimore's banged up. Vaccaro, the safety's banged up. We talked about, Donnie talked about Okafor as well, torn Achilles out for the season. So there's issues with New Orleans, but I have to give New Orleans credit. I mean, they were almost left for dead last week against Washington. And then they had that fourth quarter rally, tied the game, late 2 touchdowns, and then they win in overtime 34-31. Come back and beat the Redskins, who gave a game effort with Kirk Cousins, who played a very good football game. On the road against the Saints in that one. Saints are not an easy team to go against. Obviously, they're an underdog here on the road, despite the fact that they're on an 8-game winning streak. So you're talking about an team on an 8-game winning streak now in the role of an underdog. That's not an easy situation or scenario to bet against. But I'm not willing to throw out the LA Rams for that performance against Minnesota last week. Yeah, 24-7. They got outgained by 197 yards. Jared Goff, for one of the few times this season, and that Ram offense got shut down completely. But that's in Minnesota, that tough environment at US Bank Stadium, loud place, great elite defense, one of the best in the NFL as far as I'm concerned, Minnesota. So I'm not willing to just all of a sudden say the roof's going to cave in on the Rams. The spot lines up for them. A bounce-back effort at home. New Orleans off a thrilling, rousing, come-from-behind win. Do they fall a little bit flat coming off that kind of comeback? I'm in the camp with Donnie here. If I'm playing this game from a side perspective, I'd lean Rams. I'm not ready to throw them in the trash can after one bad game against a good team on the road. On the flip side, I'm also looking over the total, but I was hoping for something a little better than 53.5. That's a real high number. I was expecting maybe high 40s, maybe 50, 53.5, higher than my number came on this total. But even though I was leaning over, so I'm not sure the value's there to get involved.
Guys, we got best bets coming right up. Big man, any thoughts on this game in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, these guys pretty much broke it down to a T. I got to say I agree with them, though. I mean, New Orleans coming off that, big time win, a game that I don't think they deserved really, but Washington handed it to them on a silver platter late. And you have to ask yourself, now you got to go on the road, and face a team in LA off a bad loss. But we know offensively, they're very dynamic and very good. They're at home. And guys, I'm still waiting. I got to feel at some point New Orleans goes back to looking like they normally do on defense. Let's look at the last couple opponents they played over this 5 or 6 game stretch. Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers, Chicago, Tampa, Buffalo, and then they face a pretty good offense in Washington and give up 31 points. So are they valid defensively? Yeah, they've played good, but I want to see them against this team. If they play well and win this game and hold the Rams to 17 points, I think this is the big test for them really right now at this point. They still have a tough division to get through, which is going to be interesting. You got 3 tough games coming up. We're going to find out realistically, guys, if New Orleans is really right on the Eagles' heels as a real legit contender in the NFC, or they're just a fraud. We're going to find that out in the next couple of weeks, if you ask me. You got the Rams, Carolina, and at Atlanta. That's going to decide whether New Orleans is a real life contender or not, or just a fraud. And I got to be real with you. I think they're going to be a total fraud. I think they're going to go 1-2 in this stretch, and I think they're going to go away.
Guys, great breakdown there in the NFL. Want to wish all the watchers, the listeners, first of all, thank you. We got almost 250 people watching on Rivalry Weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to you from the SBR family here. We really appreciate you guys chiming in on the chat box, also giving the thumbs up, the like button. It does help us out. Guys, we got best bets coming up right now. Also, anything else you want to say about the roundtable in general, new time, anything like that? Let's just go right around the horn. Ian Cameron, find him on Twitter at Babano. What you got for best bets, man?
Yeah, well, first of all, before I get to best bets, yeah, the roundtable is now going to be Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. We're excited about the new time slot. It's a little different, shakes up our day. We're still going to have the same great discussion, yeah, every week, so make sure you tune in for that. Ice Guys, I'm hosting that. We have our last CFL show next week after the Grey Cup, so that's still ongoing. I'll be doing some other pre-taped videos starting in the next few days, certainly by next week here for SBR, so that'll be interesting as well. You're going to want to check that out. Best bets for this week. I'm going to go back to one of those rivalry games in college football that we talked about earlier in the show for best bet. I'm going to look at the Washington State Cougars here, plus 10 against the Washington Huskies. It's a situation where I just think it's too many points to be giving Washington State when Washington State, to me, is the better of these, has the potential to show that they're the better of these two teams. Now, they're on the road, obviously. They laid a complete and utter egg in the Apple Cup last year, but I'm going to trust that Mike Leach and this Cougars team has grown from that, have learned from that loss, have learned from that experience, and are more equipped to handle the spotlight of trying to punch their ticket to the Pac-12 championship game with a win here in this Apple Cup rivalry game. I think Washington State threatens to win this game outright, let alone cover the number. We'll look Washington State plus 10. And I don't like what I see from Browning. Browning's been up and down. Browning's been erratic at quarterback lately for the Huskies down the stretch. Luke Falk, I think, is going to try to make amends for a terrible game against this Huskies defense last year in Pullman. I think he's going to have the chance to do that. We're going to look Washington State plus 10 for my best bet this week.
All right, Ian on the Cougs in the Apple Cup plus the points. Donnie Rightside, find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, what you got for us?
Yeah, I've been yelling for this football game for a while, been trying to set it up all year long, and it's finally here this weekend. And one of those rivalry games or a big game that's running a little bit, under the wire for me, 137, 138. That's UCF and USF, the Battle of Florida here to see who's going to get the right to play in the conference championship game. If you look at the game overall, you say, oh, my God, look at the points, minus 11. Look, have you seen South Florida? Look at Flowers. He's amazing. This is the game I finally circled the wagons for. I've watched enough of USF this year. I've bet enough of USF this year. We all know the coaching disparity between Scott Frost and Charlie Strong. It's enormous at this point. Flowers, a great quarterback for college football, but if you ask him to throw the football, he just can't do it. If you're looking at this game and just saying it's a lot of points, I'm just going to roll with it, I'll take double digits, I get that, but I'm looking at the opposite side here. USF, to me, even though they have one loss, has been a major disappointment. UCF, to me, is completely the better football team. Great quarterback, great offense, great defense, great coaching staff, and at home. If you want to take a look at some snapshots between UCF and USF on the season, let's look at UCF at home this year. It's pretty much a common denominator here. 61-17 over FIU, 40-13 over Memphis, where everybody thought that football game was going to be a really close one. ECU, 63-21. Austin Peay, a game short and three-quarter game, 73-33. UConn, 49-24. Flip it over to the other side, USF, when they're going on the road. Let's say, forget about even the scores. Let's see how much testing there was for USF on the road. San Jose State, ECU, Tulane, and UConn. Not exactly four environments, pressure cookers that were going to push them to the limit. UCF is going to win this football game, and UCF is going to win by 2 touchdowns because they're going to shut down that one play, the read option for USF, and they're going to score whatever they want on offense. I know USF has a good defense, but they haven't seen anything like UCF. UCF's going to be ready for this football game. 2-touchdown margin. Give me the Knights.
I don't know what Donnie's talking about. How can anyone not see that South Florida road slate as anything but a murderer's row? Holy mackerel. It's just a murderer's row of opponents.
Coaching is just going to catch up in this football game. I've watched USF coast all year long. It's finally going to catch up to them in a big way. UCF's ready for this football game. They're going to put them away.
Oh, Frost could completely school strong here in a spot like this. I agree. I'm not in the business of fading UCF, so I'm with Donnie. Hope he cashes.
Donnie, in the war on I-4, he's on UCF minus the points. Big man on campus. What you got for best bets, bud?
I feel like I want to just bet the other side in that game just to do it, but because I've mentioned Scott Frost, but no, they played great this year, and I'll root for Donnie. No, I'm actually going to go to I'll give one out today just to kind of go against the grain a little bit. I'll go to Champions League today. Big matchup. Juventus hosting Barcelona. Juventus is the side I root for, but right now they're not playing well. Defensively, they've been very leaky. And if you follow this group, you know Juventus is normally a very good, stalwart defensively. But here's what's going on right now. They're whining and complaining about not getting to the World Cup. And at some point, we got to, wake up and, put on our cleats and go out and play soccer at some point. It's time to move on. You didn't make the World Cup, Juventus. Stop whining and get out and play. Buffon, you're properly rested. But I'm not sure they can go out and do it in this match. Barcelona's arguably the best team in the world. Lionel Messi is an amazing talent, as we know. They're just way there's so many goal options in this game. Paulo Dybala, Messi, Luis Suarez, Higuain. There's so many great strikers in this game. I don't know that we're going to see a 1-0 type of match. I think it's kind of a basketball match here. I think Barcelona can put 2 on the board. I really think Juventus can score as well. I'm going to go over 2.5 in this match at minus 105. I just think for Juventus, the time is now. You're 3 points behind with 2 games to go, basically. You need to do something here. If you're going to do it, it's at home. I think they put a goal on the board. I think both these teams score a couple, and this one goes over 2.5. So I'll go over 2.5. Barcelona, Juventus at minus 105.
All right, good stuff, big man. We got Ian on the Cougs plus 10 in the Apple Cup. Donnie, war on I-4, UCF minus the points. BMOC on Barcelona, Juventus over 2.5. And I will follow it up with the FAU Owls. Going to lay the wood here, have the only favorite on best bets going against the mighty Charlotte 49ers. Just think Lane Kiffin really pours it on. A lot of people would just kind of, hold out the starters, rest for the championship game there in Conference USA. But going against Charlotte, they just got boat raced, gave up 66 points against Southern Miss. I think FAU can kind of put in that type of game against them. So I will lay the 21.5 right now on SBR odds. So guys, that's it for best bets. We're up against it time-wise. We really appreciate you watching. Please give us a thumbs up, the like side. For Donnie Right Side, Ian Cameron, Big Man on Campus, I'm Drew Martin. We will see you next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific time.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.